Better late than never. So, back with another spine-tingling, exciting episode of Blurting Wild Dad. Welcome back to the live stream, y'all. We got this week I'm gonna try something a little bit different. I typically have a whole bunch of topics that I want to discuss when I build my outline throughout the day, and it just keeps growing longer and longer. This time I'm trying to condense it down to three things so I can hit all my issues and move on. So I don't feel like there's stuff left on the table. So, for those that don't know, my name is Brian. I'm a black nerd. I'm a dad. I'm nerdy about politics. I'm nerdy about comic books, video games, pro wrestling, hip hop, whatever. And so this is kind of my outlet to do my thing on Thursday nights. We do get political here. This is kind of my space to talk about stuff that's on my brain. And I know that there's a lot of people that I've been getting messages where people want me to do the entire debate bro thing where I have people call in and I sit there and argue with your friends and family for my own edification. I really don't want to do that on this platform. That is not what my intent or goal is. This is kind of my personal little outlet. I am building an ecosystem around the entire concept of Blurting Wild Dad. I've kind of went back to my blog that I used to write back in the days. And I'm going to be incorporating some elements of it because I wrote a blog for a couple of years. And then the death threat started coming in. Like the death threat started coming in. And it was crazy because the thing is, I'm just writing about like black people in comic books, right? I'm not really touching on major social issues. I'm talking about just a black nerd who like comic books and kind of giving my own smart ass perspective on things. And the death threat started flowing in like water. You know what I'm saying? Like weird death threats, people threatening to show up to my house and all kinds of other stuff because they disagreed with me about comic books. And so that's why I stopped writing the blog as much. I wasn't worried about myself as much as me, my wife and kids. And also, I don't want to catch a charge because some little goofy incel nerd decides that he wants to try to show up to my house and front me off because he didn't like what I wrote about his favorite comic book character on the blog. But people were getting out of pocket with the death threats. It was crazy. And this is early, early before the Nazification of Twitter and stuff like that. Like I was getting death threats old fashioned way, straight through the email attached to my website. Crazy work. But anyway, I did go back and dug in the lab and decided I do want to start writing again for my blog, but I am also going to take elements of stuff that I've written and incorporate it into the show and also incorporate it into the YouTube channel. You're going to see more focused content on the YouTube channel. Right now, it's just a place to receive all the clips from the live stream, but I have some more focused comic book content, some deeper dives about comic book characters and other things I want to talk about. So you're going to start seeing more of that kind of content on there. I'm kind of the universe I love, and I don't see enough of content about is the IDW Transformer universe. I did do a video. If you want to go check the Blurting Wild Dad YouTube channel, I did a video about Overlord, who was character issues on Overlord in the IDW Transformers universe, and how he's like Freddy with the unbridled glee of he's like Michael Myers with the unbridled glee of Freddy. And he was really a fun character. When you look at the way he's drawn, he almost looks like Tim Curry in it. And, he's basically, what if we decided to give Michael Myers Wolverine's healing ability, healing factor, and indestructible skeleton, and give him Freddy's just the fun that he had with killing people, like the unbridled joy that early stage Nightmare on Elm Street 1 through 4 Freddy had, where he was just having a grand old time. And that was Overlord in the IDW Transformers universe. Really interesting character. But I think I did, if I didn't do a Last Stand of the Wreckers, I do want to do a kind of a synopsis of that, because I think, to me, that's the best jumping on point if you want to get into the IDW Transformers series. And for a long time, Up until like 2018, IDW Transformer series was like one of the best ongoing comic book series that you're going to find. It was More Than Meets the Eye, Robots in Disguise, Lost Light. All of them were phenomenal comic books. Like if you're looking to get into a new comic book ecosystem, that was really the way to go. And then I think they got sold. I think the rights to Transformer comic books got sold somewhere else, and I haven't picked it up since. So, but people are telling me I need to get back in it. Anyway, I'm be doing more focused content on the YouTube channel, regarding that, and it's not just going to be a repository for the clips from this live stream. So tonight we're going to talk about labels and definitions. We're going to talk. I'm revisiting the Omega level mutant conversation, because apparently my little clip that was part of like a 30-minute conversation caused a ton of consternation on TikTok. And that's not what my goal is. That's not what my drive and mission is, to cause consternation on TikTok. So the entire story. Yes, it is. It's probably one of my favorite comic book series written, and going all the way back to the Marvel Transformers. The lore is super, super deep. There is a lot of lore in the Marvel Transformers comic books, and they don't pull any punches in those books either. It's really good. The other one that was really good when Marvel, starting from all the way, back in the days, from the days of when Marvel had the property, the G.I. Joe series was incredible. I collected that when I was a lot younger, and I didn't understand a lot of the themes in it. I just liked the action, but it was really, really a solid book where characters' deaths had weight, and there were storylines that you had to follow for multiple series and everything. They treated the reader like they're an intelligent audience member, as opposed to just kids. And so I really, really did appreciate the old school G.I. Joe series as well. When Marvel was when it was in Marvel, it was really, really good. And like I said, the Transformer series, going all the way back to when Marvel had it, it's been solid. There have been a few where it's been kind of more hit or miss, but more times than not, they really do, like the creators who take it over, they really do take an opportunity to explore the world. And I really do appreciate that. I think the thing that kind of made me a fan for the IDW Transformers, more or less, is because they had the original writers from the Marvel books on it, and so they were able to do a lot of world building in there. So I'm looking it up now, making sure I got my key. Yeah, so Furman wrote it. Simon Furman was writing most of it, the series, when it started out all the way through 2011. And then, More Than Meets the Eye, Robots in the Sky, and then the Unicron crossover. All of it was solid. And if you're looking at a book that you can probably collect, it's really, really good. And you probably could find the entire collection by now. My series comic book, short-lived animation. Yeah, okay, so surprisingly enough, as big of a nerd as I was back in the days, the show Max, the show that used to come on MTV back when MTV was dominating the animation blocks. Liquid Television, one of the best series ever, but it's a cult classic. When MTV was dominating animation, I discovered Max through the show, and then went back and tried to track down the comic books. And that was new for me, because normally I would be following the comic books, since I pretty much lived in the comic book shop. I would be following the comic books, and when the new show dropped, I was all over it. Living in the comic book shop essentially was how I discovered Spawn before all my homeboys did. And so because I was really into Image, but also the shop I went to, a lot of the Image comic books were mature, and so there was a line in the sand where you had to kind of finagle a little bit to get access to those. And the person to not ask was my mom, because she was not like, why is it in the mature section? Why do you need me to get it from the mature section? So I had to finagle to get into Image comic books, but Max was dope. And like I said, the animation was the cartoon was amazing. Like MTV used to be the GOAT of kind of more grown-up animation. I used to watch Liquid Television religiously. Aeon Flux, all of those, you know, and even some of the weirder ones, the Brothers Grunt and all that other stuff. Those were really, really good. The early Beavis and Butthead things, the early Mike Judge stuff was really, really solid. Um, I'm dating myself, but MTV used to be a lot. it, hey, Maddie, how's it going? Aeon Flux wasn't weird, not weird enough for me. And it, like, I love that. I love the little animation block segments that they used to do. The head was pretty amazing. Yeah, I like that one too, with the guy with the big, huge head back in my day. Yeah, well, it used to be where MTV was actually like a network and not just the ridiculousness channel where we just show ridiculousness 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And occasionally they would show music videos. And then when they got tired of showing music videos, we got animation or we got real world marathons. They stole a lot from us in terms of junk television. They stole a lot from us, like the dating shows and all the other stuff. MTV used to be peak, in terms of watching stuff. And yeah, they stole a lot from us. Like I said, if I could find, a collected DVD, I said DVDs, collected DVDs of Liquid Television, I'd probably buy them. Yeah, corporate America stole a lot from us, bro. They had to figure out how to jam as many commercials in our face as possible. And made it so. Here's the thing: TRL really did kill the video, the music video format. 106 and Park was kind of guilty of this too, where they'd have the top 10 countdown, and you watch the top 10 countdown to watch the videos, right? But they would just cut the video off in the middle to go to the next video. And so you never saw the complete video or heard the complete song. And that was kind of that TRL 106 and Park format. And that's what killed the entire format for me. Because it's like, what is the point of me watching the video countdown show if I cannot see all the videos? What's the purpose of this? Singled out. So much horrible things. Yes, pure garbage television. Pure garbage television, and I miss it. Yeah, it was called. Yeah, it was similar to that. They would, but yeah, for whatever reason, they would just stop. Like it was like this weird decision. Like, don't show them all the videos. They can't see all of the video. We have to cut it out weirdly. You can only watch half of it. So you're watching your countdown to see your favorite song. You can only see like not even half of the damn video. They just shut it off. Radio top 10 shows. I'm thinking that it had everything to do with money because when I worked in radio, there's a lot of weird rights that you have to pay for and all this other stuff when you play music over the air. And so thinking it had something to do with it. It sucked regardless. I did find a YouTube channel where they just show old episodes of like Rap City and Video Soul and all the video shows I used to watch on BET with the commercials. It's pretty amazing. And it's kind of like a time warp. Miss MTV was nothing but music videos and animation, right? And occasionally a real world episode. Like watching the real world was kind of a real thing. I remember it really like getting invested where I wanted to actually go fight Puck. Like I wanted to physically fight Puck. And I had this weird dream of wanting to be on the real world. And I think the cast that was probably my age, I'm around the same age as the Miz. And so the New York cast and that first Vegas cast were around my age. And they would have been, that would have been the year that I could get on. And I started filling out the application. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I don't think I'm going to get it. And so I didn't fill out the application for it. I don't have enough I don't have enough trauma going on in my life. I'm too relatively normal. And I wasn't a huge drinker back then. So you couldn't get me blackout drunk and have me acting the fool on that show. So I wasn't a good candidate for the real world. It did jump the shark where they had that girl on there who was a blackout drunk and they kept just feeding her alcohol and just kind of letting the camera follow her around. Like, this seems dangerous. The one that was really, I think it was Hollywood, where they had the guy who literally had just he had a coke habit up until like 2 weeks before he got on the show, and then they just start feeding him alcohol. Really, really dark stuff in the real world. They used to shunt 10 videos plus interviews, audience bits, and 30. Yeah. And they had to squeeze in as much as they could. I have an entire thing that I've written out about how, the integration of music really came through TRL in terms of hip hop being really integrated into what the mainstream was. And a lot of it had to do with Eminem's ascendancy, because for a long time, different genres are still kind of walled off in their own little thing, right? Um, you know, and I worked in radio, and the formats were still kind of rock solid where you didn't really cross over formats. So we had a dude named Psycho who used to run our he was like our metal guy. And we had Psycho. Like Psycho was awesome until he tried to get into a fist fight. He almost got into a fist fight with Slipknot. And like we landed an interview with Slipknot, and Psycho, the first question he asked of the head dude from Slipknot, he's like, "So why are you such a fucking poser?" And the whole interview just went downhill after that. It just fell apart after that. But Psycho was an interesting dude. I mean, Psycho. But we had a couple of different incidents and stuff like that. Yeah, the radio station days were fun. And it was also being in that MTV BET generation. I got a chance to see how multi-format college radio station really segregates its format. Because when Psycho was on, that was the metal show. That was it. Then we had a top 40 show. Then we had an alt rock show. I don't know if we had a country show or not yet. But yeah. And then we were the hip hop and R&B show. We were the black segment. Jim Carrey rapping on Living Color. Yeah. In Living Color, it's amazing that show existed for as long as it did. And when the Wayans brothers kind of got cut out of the picture, the wheels really started falling off of the show. It was really interesting how Fox was doing their biggest shows at that point, because they had captured kind of a crossover audience because they did have a black audience. And then they just decided one day, nah, we're not going to do this anymore. And so we're going to take Arsenio Hall, which is the most popular show by a landslide at the time, and we're going to absolutely just screw it out of existence. And yeah, it was really interesting how Fox used to maneuver. Who do you think might get a pass? I don't give passes, bro. Stand on your square. If you want to say it, say it. And let the consequences fall where they may. I don't do that. I'm not that. I'm not him. I'm not that guy who does the N-word pass. We ain't that cool. So anyway, yeah, that was my little rant while we're getting on board. So first we're going to talk about Marvel and mutants and clear up some stuff, and then we're going to talk about that dude from Maine. And in the most recent, like the recent case with Dustin Poirier, I don't even know who that is. I'm not following it, bro. Yeah, I don't know where a lot of this stuff is coming from, Maddie. I gotta be honest with you. But like I said, that's what I'm gonna talk about. We got I'm gonna clear up some stuff about give a little bit of history of the entire way that Omega level mutant and the term Omega level mutant has really been kind of a soccer ball for comic book fans to argue about. And I've been reading comic books long enough to know that Omega level mutant, that term has meant different things throughout the years, depending on who the creative team is in the X room, and writing the X-Men books and stuff. And so, I'm really, a lot of people took umbrage with how I phrased that stuff and how I talked about it. And it is what it is. So let's get into it. Omega level mutant is never been like simply like the strongest mutant. I know the first time I was kind of aware of Omega level, they were talking about Rachel Summers being an Omega level mutant, and really it just meant that she had um, a power level that was kind of incalculable and things along those lines. I know Iceman fell into that category pretty early on too. There's an entire saga with Iceman where they had to put on the power controller build. I can't remember exactly what the date was, but because they were scared that his powers are going to run out of controlling, he's going to send the entire planet back into the ice age. Had a lawsuit to prove mutants aren't people to avoid tax. I haven't heard that one. Tell me more. So we literally have a law that makes mutants not humans in America. I need to know more about that. 11 Omega mutants are just goofy sometimes, are just goofy anymore. And I think it is reaching. I need to know more about the Omega level mutant thing. Yeah, Franklin Richards was the most random character, and he's kind of like the Deus Ex Machina of the Marvel universe. Whenever they need a reset button, we just tap Franklin on the shoulder and tell him to get to work. But the entire concept of Omega level mutant is it's this weird power scaling thing that we've gotten into in recent years, where you know, you always have to raise the stakes, and a lot of times I feel like raising the stakes takes the place of just writing compelling dilemmas for characters to get into and get out of. So instead of having the most powerful new world-ending threat, just have somebody who just approaches it in a way that's novel and uses their powers in a way that's highly destructive or disruptive to the characters you're writing. But instead, we got to keep raising the stakes and raising the stakes and raising the stakes. And then that's where you get Sins of Sinister, where we just throw everything out the damn window. And, you know, Storm is 5,000 years old, and she's fighting Emma Frost, who's also 5,000 years old on a starship. They both have starships. Storm's power kind of makes sense because she has control. Her powers have grown as she's gotten older, and so she can control galactic storms and things along those lines. Emma Frost power don't make any damn sense. Sins of Sinister, absolutely, completely. It blew up scale. It blew up to a scale that was incomprehensible, and it was really hard for your average person to follow. And I think that was kind of, for me, that kind of doomed the entire Krakoa era. But before that happened, yeah, the Arakko mutants, and the way that and I've said this before, the way they introduced the Arakko mutants are like, they're all Omega level, all of them. It's an entire island full of Omega level mutants. You're like, wow, that's really cool. And then I think what happened is the artist kind of just went nuts with designs, and the writer didn't have enough narrative to support the designs. And so you had really weird Omega level mutants. Like, how is this person Omega level? This doesn't make any sense. It's a power creep issue, right? And I think you defeat power creep by establishing villains that have unique abilities, or they find a new way to use their power in a way to kind of screw over people. Because it's not just a Marvel issue. DC has this issue of power creep right now. You know, the last little crisis event that they had, where it's really super kind of meta, and they're almost like, you know, they're making, it's almost like a fighting game, DCKO. It was interesting, but then the power creep really got weird with Superman. Okay, there's this weird tax code where toys that were human got taxed more. Animals and monsters got taxed. So basically, Marvel. Oh, mutants have the same rights. They aren't real humans. I got it. That makes sense. Kind of, I guess. I mean, if we're talking about U.S. tax code never makes sense. I want to see Scarlet Carnage give Scarlet Witch the Carnage symbol. Now let's go. It's so good. Here's the thing, because I've been trying to read and follow Venom, and that has been daunting in and of itself, because they had something going with Eddie, something really good with Eddie, and then the power creep issue came in, and they're like, well, now he's the King in Black, and so now Eddie's fighting this front in the past, present, and future. He's confronting his future self, past self. And I think they just, when they ended that series, it sucked so bad. It was just bad the way that they ended the series because they had set up all these stakes and nothing really got paid off. And then Eddie is Carnage after the series. And it started out really interesting. Okay, Eddie is Carnage. And now he has to deal with Muse. Okay, Muse is he's hunting Muse, and now they got a little bit of interplay with that. And Eddie finally confronts Muse and cuts Muse's hand off, and then Muse runs out the building, and that's the last we see of Muse. Okay, cool. Now we have the Death Spiral miniseries with Spider-Man. Sorry if I'm spoiling a lot of this stuff. The Death Spiral miniseries with Spider-Man, and they introduce a new character who has the same color scheme of Muse. And I'm like, we gave Muse a symbiote. Cool. Like, Muse now has a symbiote. That raises the level of threat. And then they said, well, the dude that is Spiral, or whatever his name is, he's just a random serial killer with random powers and abilities that we haven't really fully explained. And the reason why he can keep up with the symbiotes is just because we need him to. And then he bonds with Carnage. And so now this random dude has, and like, but you had Muse, you set up Muse to be a recurring villain and you never paid it off. That's what's happening in Marvel right now. That's the other doofy thing. Just variations, the same characters sell more stuff. And DC played with it where it was kind of interesting, where you had, 3 rounds. The first round was character on like the characters at their base level. And then the next round was a character could pick whatever variation of themselves gave them the advantage. And that made it kind of a meta thing. But it started out strong, and then it just kind of fizzled out because it went back to the old thing where Superman is the linchpin of the entire DC universe, and he is the thing that all good things flow from. New characters. Venom bonded with Franklin Richards and evolved away his fire weakness, and symbiotes are weird. Right. I feel like the symbiote thing jumped the shark. I feel like Eddie Brock and the King in Black could have really reset the normal for symbiotes and established something, and it really didn't. I think a lot of it probably had to do typically what happens in Marvel and DC and some of these other comic book companies, where you have an event that looks really good and it's interesting and then has a sucky payoff. That typically means somebody above said, we need to end this thing now. And that's what happened. That's what happened with X-Men. They went well past what Hickman wanted to do. I think it was Hickman. Yeah, they went well past what Hickman wanted to do. And they wanted to stay on Krakoa. He wanted to move the story forward, and they liked the Krakoa thing. So they lived in the Krakoa era. His team left, and they expanded the Krakoa era to run way too long. And then in the middle of it, while it's really long, and it's like, okay, this is turning into a slog, we're going to have the Sins of Sinister for the entire summer. And so now this thing will not end. And Sins of Sinister didn't really have universal changing payoffs because it was all undone. Mr. Sinister wanted to become a Dominion, whatever that Dominion thing meant in the Marvel universe, where he's an all-encompassing being and blah, 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 blah. And it just fell apart towards the end. And now the X-Men are just kind of adrift right now. Because Tom Brevoort, I don't know what he's doing there. It's convoluted and boring. And that was the exact reason why I fought through to read the entire Krakoa era. I really did enjoy them on Krakoa, but the ending was garbage. It was trash. It didn't end well. The entire Moira McTaggart is a villain thing did not pay off. The entire stuff with Sinister never really paid off. The Apocalypse story didn't pay off. The only one that kind of paid off was Storm fighting, Apocalypse's family. That kind of paid off. But even then, like, that's where the weird Omega level mutants on Arakko kind of came from. And so you had the wolf dude, and I talked about the wolf guy, Lacan, two wolves or whatever. And he is a double-headed wolf centaur creature thing. And he was also Omega level mutant. And you read what his Omega level mutant abilities are, and it's like he has the same power set as Wolverine. Healing factor, animal senses, blah, 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 blah. Plus, he's really good at debate. That is not an Omega level power. I don't give a damn how you phrase it. Being good at debate is not an Omega level power. It's not a. It doesn't. And the original context of Omega level, it was overwhelming power, and then they also introduced like they're able to live in like without their physical. They're able to survive the death of their physical bodies as an energy based construct or whatever. Like they transcend death, and they added that in and a bunch of other stuff, and then they shrunk it back down to say it's just somebody whose specific mutant ability has no known upper limits. Okay, so we're saying that this wolf, two-headed wolf monster thing was an Omega level mutant, and then he died by getting one shot by somebody with a disintegration beam. He didn't heal from that. So if his healing factor has no upper no limits, Deadpool could survive that. So is Deadpool an Omega level? Well, Deadpool's not a mutant. Deadpool with Black Bolt's powers called him Deadpool. Okay, so here's the thing. In the 90s, Marvel and DC had a big crossover event, and they created an entire series of crossed over comic book characters. So you had like Batwing or something like that, where it was like Wolverine and Batman combined together. You had Doctor Strange Fate, where Doctor Fate and it was an algorithm comics. I can't even say the name, but it was really interesting. They can't have endings. They can't have endings, but arcs can have endings, and then they can pick up another arc. And sometimes it's how you finish the arc to move on to the next story. And I think that was the biggest issue. Comics have endings, the characters don't. Some comics keep going well past their welcome. I think some arcs overstay their welcome, and a lot of times that has to do with how the sales are going. And then other arcs don't get enough. Like they need to, as hard as Absolute Batman is hitting, they need to keep that running as much as possible. Absolute Batman is amazing. They basically switched Bruce and Selina and gave Selina all the tech and gear and money and everything, and Bruce is just scraping together what he can do. And the journey of Bruce going through his darkness and things along those lines and his grief and loss, that's really kind of interesting. They're about to introduce the Court of Owls. We've already introduced the Robins. We're about to see Batgirl and things along those lines. And they're all really interesting twists on the characters. Keep that run going. There's more story to tell there. Okay. But then there are other ones where it just is like, will this event ever end? Will this ever stop? Yeah, Amalgamation Comics. It was Amalgam Comics. It was so bizarre, but it was also kind of awesome. Batman could be really well written like the Red Hood. I think that there was a phenomenal missed opportunity with the Red Hood to really. I feel like they missed an opportunity with Task Force X or the Suicide Squad. We're still here, bro. We're back. We're back. Um, I think that they're coming for me, bro. I think it was like Peter Thiel finally heard all the stuff, all the shit I was talking about him, and decided to take me down, bro. Knock me down a peg. Um, where was I? I think one of the things, like we were talking about, um, my ADHD kidnapped and ran away with it. You guys are gonna have to help me out where I was. Tell me where I was. Yeah, it kidnapped whatever I was talking about, and it ran. It fled. I know I was talking about the mood. I'm the mom for two straight ADHD. You're talking about amalgamation comic books, and the X-Men. I do think that there was something. I think there was something there with amalgamation comic books that could have made it really interesting and endings. Red Hood too. Okay, so let me try to tie this together. Okay, so the thing with Red Hood is I think that they would have had a great opportunity to put him in the Suicide Squad and let him find his redemption arc there, where he was the trigger man. Like he was constantly the guy that was there to make sure the villains did what they were supposed to do and did the job. And he would be the one that if they flaked on the job, he was the trigger man. That would have been a great opportunity to start seeing some humanity in some of these villains, specifically like a Harley Quinn, who he would have very, very complex feelings regarding. Um, and not a romantic entanglement, but start seeing the humanity in them. And that could have been his arc. And he could have been the Batman who will hospitalize you horrifically without killing you. I think there was more to the Red Hood story than how they had him, where one day he's killing people and he wants to kill Bruce, and the next day he's a good guy again, but then he's an edgy boy again, and jumping back and forth. I think they had a good redemption arc that they could have given him, and they did not, and that's why I've always hated the character of Jason Todd. I never liked Jason Todd. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. When they sent out the line to off him in the comic books, I was like, let's push the button and let's get rid of it. Um, but I do think they could have had an interesting character arc and made him more than just the Robin that kills people. Let's see. Which movie? Behind the Red Hood, underneath the Red Hood. I have. If I were talking about the animated movie, ouch, screwed my shoulder, screwed my elbow up. Get back in the gym. Um, yeah, he was never the Robin that kills people. He was a weapon for Batman. Yeah, but he was the one that I think that was the original problem with early on. He was the angry Robin, and he killed somebody early on in his career, and that was like a wedge that Batman had to overcome. Basically like we don't kill, and that was kind of his descent into, um, you know, descent into it, and then the entire why Batman never killed the Joker, which I would be asking Bruce the same question, like, so this dude beat me to death with a crowbar and blew me up, and you didn't spin the block for me, like what are we doing, bro? You didn't ride for me or nothing. We'll just put him back in Arkham again. Nah, man, he's got to go. He's got to go. Now I understand that's how the Batman Who Laughs was kind of born, where Batman did kill the Joker after one final thing that went wrong and it turned him evil. But before then, it's like, so you didn't spin, like you couldn't spin the block for, you couldn't ride for your boy and slide for me. Like this dude like blew me up. I was a child, bro. Like he strapped a bomb to me, beat me with the crowbar, and strapped a bomb to me and blew me up. I'm like a child, man. If there's a reason, if there was a specific reason why the Joker needed to go, that was it. Like killed your son, bro. Like that one has always baffled me. Like if there was one villain that Batman really, 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 really shouldn't be trying to save, it should be the Joker. But it is interesting, if you're reading Matt Fraction's current run in Batman, what they're doing with the Joker, and where they've kind of gave him a level of sanity and clarity, in this new environment that they have him trapped in. It's really kind of an interesting thing. I want to see what happens with it, because Um, Vandal Savage is absolutely just trolling Batman's life right now. And the way that they described it in the Matt Fraction run is this: Vandal Savage, since he lived so long, he can stop his plans and screw with Batman for a number of years. And it's like a bathroom break for him. And so he's just doing it for the sake of pure pettiness. So he took over the Gotham Police Department, moved into Wayne Manor, and basically turned the police force against the Bat family. And he's just doing it just for the love of the game, bro. Just to fuck with Batman. And I love it. Matt Fraction is really doing a good job on the Batman series. He's actually making the mainline Batman series readable again. Which after that entire Bat War thing where he was fighting the kids and they're all at war with each other, and him and Catwoman are at war with each other, Matt Fraction needed to save that book because it was absolutely going down the toilet. His relationship with Dick was different. Batman had his heavy bruisers. And that's another one. What happened to Azrael? Where is this dude? I ain't seen this dude. Nobody stays dead in comic books. We can't, he just fell off. But see, again, I want justice for Tim Drake. Tim Drake is the GOAT Robin. He's the best Robin. Fight me about it. Tim Drake is the best Robin. And he always is getting shortchanged. Specifically, he's the Robin I grew up with. Just like John Stewart's the Green Lantern I kind of grew up with. Where's justice for Tim Drake? Yeah, he spun the block for Alfred, but that was more Damian was ready to ride for Alfred, bro. Like Damian is still about that action. Like Jason was mad Batman was so late, but you actually pay attention. He was mad because what Batman did after was like Brother Arkham. Okay. Green Lantern's always been black. I mean, I did. I liked Robin. I liked the fact that there were different iterations of Robin. Like if you're talking about who the prodigal son was, it was going to be Dick Grayson. You're talking about who the angry, the rebellious, dangerous Robin is, it's going to be Jason Todd. You're talking about the smartest Robin, it was Tim Drake. And then they would say Tim Drake is the hardest hitting one. And if you're talking about the unhinged Robin, that was he was a little bit more dangerous he was just as dangerous as Jason Todd. You have Damian Wayne, and that's the actual son, the biological son of Bruce. And so I do think having the different Batmans, and yes, Stephanie Brown mixed in there. Duke was in there too. I think that having each Robin having his own personality is interesting. I do think we need to question Batman's methods when the mortality rate on Robins is pretty damn high. It's shockingly high. And the fact that Child and Family Services has not investigated Bruce Wayne for the disappearance of why did he, where was Child? I used to be a caseworker. Where was Child and Family Services when Jason Todd just disappeared? Like, hey man, so you adopted this dude, he's your son, where'd he go? Nobody ever asked him that question. Green. Well, we're talking about the John Stewart, the Black Green Lantern. Because for a while, Hal Jordan was like the golden to silver age Green Lantern, and then they turned him villain as we entered kind of the modern era. Which I don't necessarily think. I know they wanted to replace him, and they brought in John Stewart to cover it. And Kyle Rayner ended up becoming the mainline Green Lantern for a while. And John Stewart he was like the rock, the architect, the one that did everything solidly. I think Green Lantern's best treated like a police department. Yeah, Hal was Silver Age, and Alan Scott was Golden Age. Nah, not that, Robin. That movie was an abomination, bro. Like that entire Batman thing with Chris O'Donnell. I like Chris O'Donnell, but that Batman movie was trash. I spent my own money to see that in theaters, bro. I was so mad. Jay Garrick was Golden Age Flash. Yep. Jay Garrick was Golden Age Flash. Speaking, I saw Supergirl. Oh, was it bad? Was it tough? Was it? Oh, I was holding out hope for it. I wanted to see it. I still do want to see it. I'm probably gonna still watch it when it releases digitally. I don't have enough time. Like right now, I got a look bug flying around me. A little gnat or something. I got enough. I don't have enough time to watch this stuff. Like I barely have enough time to read comic books as it is. And I need to get back into it, but I will sit down and watch Supergirl. I still haven't seen like I've only seen bits and pieces of the Superman. I love James Gunn. I wanted to see what he did with Superman. I haven't had a chance to sit down and watch that. And that's been over a year. Um, I try to catch stuff as it comes out, but I can't do it all the time. I will say there. It was a good core story. It was terrible. I saw it in theaters. I was a little bit older. I was in high school when that dropped, and I paid my own money for it. I'm okay. So if you want to experience the depth of disappointment, um, I paid my own money to see that movie in theaters. I paid my own money to see the first Spawn in theaters. After like we had the HBO series to get us all ready for Spawn, and then just Spawn just happened, bro. It's just the theater, the live action version of Spawn was trash. I paid my own money to see it. Needs a massive script doctor. Sometimes I do wonder because there's specific stories that James Gunn tells really, really well. I think James Gunn tells the story of the superheroes that you don't really know about and really world builds around them, like more B tier superheroes. Get you to invest and care about them. I wonder how he does with. I don't know, have a read on how he does with the characters that have a lot to them, and so that's what my concern is. I think that's why Guardians of the Galaxy worked. Peacemaker? Peacemaker worked. Um, because these aren't major characters. Like Vigilante wasn't like a major character. Peacemaker wasn't a major character. He gave them their own personality, but it still resonated with the comic book, right? Suicide Squad worked because those are all B tier characters, and he was doing like a lot of deep lore, deep cuts from the actual Suicide Squad comic book. I read the old Suicide, but like the 1980s, 90s Suicide Squad, which was not funny at all. It was dark, dark, dark. And I enjoyed it, but I do think James Gunn has it where he can write good for characters that don't have a ton of knowledge and people aren't coming in. He's all right. Like Steve Rogers is Captain America, no offense. Well, now they got a new was it the dude that the redhead dude that's Captain America now, where he's gonna be like the signature guy in this whatever this crossover thing is, this Armageddon thing where they got to go fight Red Hulk. I have a feeling like the new Captain America that they've given all the power to, and basically turned into like Hyperion essentially. They're gonna have to deal with him. They're so afraid of being, and they should have leaned 100% into it. They shouldn't lean. He should have leaned into it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Guardians of the Galaxy still has the most heart out of any of the Marvel movies. And you know, like Guardians of the Galaxy 3 essentially reduced my entire house to tears. Like it destroyed everybody in different ways. And to experience that in a comic book movie is a big deal. They need to give they need to just go ahead and bite the bullet and give Sam a shot of super soldier serum and just be done with it. Like everybody else has super soldier serum. Natasha even has super soldier serum in her blood. Just give it to Sam and let him run wild with it. Maybe give him a lower dose or whatever, but let's do it because they give that stuff to anybody. Um, it was also horribly ugly. So yeah, the cinematography didn't impress me to get started with, but I wanted to see the main man. I want to see Lobo, man. Like I was excited about that. Justice League animated 2001. Yes, I do agree with that. I do think that they really peaked with format of Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. I really do think the format, that was the peak representation of the characters. The Wonder Woman was so good. The Wonder Woman movie that they dropped almost like 10, 15 years ago was really good too. It was a good representation of her. There was a way to have a solid Supergirl ending without going full. Oh no. I'll watch it. Don't spoil it for me. I will check it out and then I will report back. But I gotta wait till it hits digital. There's no way I'm gonna be able to have time to go see it in theaters. First movie I saw in theaters. Wow. It was probably, you guys are about to find out how old I really am. It was probably Empire Strikes Back. Like, we were off to a great start. Like, the first movie I ever saw was Empire Strikes Back. That set the bar for movie experiences. And then the one that I remember the most was Gremlins, because I had to get carried out of Gremlins because I was terrified. I was screaming and yelling, and they had to carry me out of Gremlins after wanting to see it. What killed Guardians of the Galaxy is you have to get people to watch it. The Guardians of the Galaxy, I don't think it ever really fell off. All the movies were really acclaimed. It was just James Gunn like telling the entire arc of the story and then ending it. He ended the Guardians arc and started a new one. Yeah, should be juiced up. Zemo really should be. I hope they make him Citizen. Was it Citizen V coming up here? Whatever movies are coming up. I do really think if they do a Thunderbolts follow up or something, that they bring Zemo back as Citizen V, as Sword Master or whatever, and let him cook. Because Zemo was really a good complex villain without the superpowers. Because he didn't really do it, like when they were in Civil War, he didn't really need any powers to do. He just outsmart. He just flanked everybody. I'll tell you how I wanted it to end. Not a spoiler. Okay, I'm catching up, so bear with me. I don't see how Supergirl is killing Lobo without throwing him to the sun or one animal laser beams. Right, like in the DC KO event, when Wonder Woman was fighting Lobo, literally the presence had to intervene and make Lobo mortal so that he could die. Like, God had to step in and say, you're not immortal anymore. Like, that's how powerful Lobo was. Talking about the original one from the early 80s. I am not a young man. No, I was like 3 or like 4 with the original one. I was in high school when the 1997 re-release came out. Every Supergirl is rougher than Superman, but she's no psycho. I do like the more unhinged version of Supergirl is the unhinged. If you want to know who I think is kind of nailed the interpretation of Supergirl, it's My Adventures of Superman. If you watch that one, they kind of nail the character of Supergirl in that show. It's really, really good. And I think James Gunn has some oversight over that one. That is how Supergirl's represented. She's awkward. She's an alien, but she's also a teenage girl. But she's also like, I think she's still older than Clark, but something happened where she didn't age as fast or she was in cryo sleep longer or whatever. And they showed how fierce she could be when she was under the thrall of Brainiac. That's how you do Supergirl. But I do like the depressed Supergirl because that makes sense. And I do think that I think there's an arc where Supergirl was going through depression. So this is not a spoiler. I want a Supergirl to end with them in a bar and Lobo busts through the wall, Mass and Wrecking Ball singing along to the song. Right. Okay. Play it, lean into it. Okay. That makes sense. Lobo as a villain to Superman, I don't like that. I'd rather see Lobo as kind of like the wild card that Superman always just has to deal with. Yeah, I see that one. I see that. Asherah from Hindu myth, but weaker. I could see that. There's more than that. Like I said, if you guys haven't been watching My Adventures of Superman, my daughter loves it because of the relationships between the characters, but they really do a good interpretation of raising the stakes on that show. And right now we're dealing with the cyborg Superman, which is pretty awesome, Hank Henshaw, and the way they got his character is perfect. But that's the most non-fake spoiler I can make. All right, I'm gonna check it out. Like I said, there's going to be probably around my birthday, I'm going to take time off and catch up on a lot of the media that I have not been able to catch up on, just because I've been busy. But yeah, there's a lot of different things I want to catch up on. So anyway, long story short, when I was talking about the Omega level mutants, I just want to kind of establish the fact that Marvel's changed the meaning of Omega level mutants throughout the years, and that's why comic book fans always argue about it, because every generation thinks that their generation of Omega level mutant and their definition is the one that was always has been, and that's not the case. They shifted around. It's a moving ball. Whatever character they want to be Omega level, they make Omega level. And for a while, it was like Jean Grey was Omega level, and then that was it. And then you introduce Vulcan, who's Omega level. And then we got to make Storm Omega level because it makes sense for Storm to be Omega level. Iceman had already been Omega level. You got Rachel Summers as Omega level. Cable, who was Omega level telepath, but he has to deal with the techno-organic virus, so it makes him unable to use his psionic powers to the fullest extent of the. It's a moving thing, and I think that they need to bury the term Omega level because Franklin Richards was an Omega level mutant. And then when they needed to put Franklin Richards on the sidelines, they said he wasn't a mutant. They said he just had these psionic powers out of he was born with these powers, but he wasn't a mutant. He was a mutate or something along those lines, just so that he couldn't unfuck everything that happened around the Krakoa era, where they basically killed everybody, when Nimrod basically killed everybody. They had to remove Franklin Richards from the screen, from the book, essentially, and send him back to the Fantastic Four and depower him, just because he would have ruined the X-Men's book. Like, if he was there at the Hellfire Gala where everybody died, he could have just, that didn't happen, and it would have been over with. And so they took him off and made him not Omega level mutant, and then they came back and said, well, he actually is Omega level mutant, but he has and so this is where it really gets stupid. And if you're not following the Fantastic Four, if you've not been following the Fantastic Four, it's been good except for this. For whatever reason, they said Franklin Richards' powers, he only can use them once a year. And typically, if he needs to save the Earth, he did so there was invisible asteroids crashing into the Earth, and Franklin Richards had to, while he was sleeping, was aware of them and ended the threat before it killed the planet, and then his powers went dormant again. It's really stupid. It's really stupid. And then they keep aging Franklin up and de-aging him. It's just a mess with him. I think Apocalypse he should be, because Apocalypse has every power. Like, he has all of them. You would think he is. But then they said, well, his actual estranged wife is more powerful than he is. Okay, what can she do? She could control plants and botanical life. I can see how that works. The way they expressed it makes sense. But come on. And then his kids were more powerful than him. Well, what can Anubis do? Well, Anubis, his kids were the original horsemen of Apocalypse. And so they all have the different death and pestilence and all the other stuff. And they have powers that go along with it. And you jobbed Apocalypse out to make him more powerful again, to make him the villain, when you decided to make Doug Ramsey the new Apocalypse for unknown reasons. Still don't know why. We knew we were coming up on the Age of Apocalypse anniversary, and we needed to have a story. And so Age of Revelation happened, and they drug out X-Men comic books again, and we still don't know why Doug Ramsey is Apocalypse. I want the old Doug Ramsey back. because this new Doug Ramsey sucks. They never really solved anything. They're just like, well, when it happens, it happens. So they had this entire time story about him taking over in the future and everything. And at the end, spoiler alert, please don't read the comic book. It sucks. The spoiler alert, Doug Ramsey essentially wanted to merge everything into Ego and become his own version of Ego, the Living Planet. And so he became Doug, the Living Planet. It was so stupid. And they had this all future storyline that killed a bunch of the X-Men faves. Nightcrawler died for no reason whatsoever. Like they could have left him out of the story. They didn't, but they decided again and again and again. It was so bad, and it drug out, and it didn't make any sense, and it had stakes, and then the stakes were null, and now it reset the X-Men books again, and they're not good. Right? They weren't good coming out of the gate. I think they're going to reboot the X-Men. I'm hearing they're going to reboot it again around Christmas time. I hope they do better next time. Jean is cool. I like Jean. I think Franklin, when he was Tattletale and he had the prophetic dreams, like when they had him with Power Pack and stuff, I think it was interesting. I do understand making him like he's like his parents are the Fantastic Four. It makes sense to make him an Omega level mutant. To me, my Galactus will always go harder than just about anything I've ever seen in a comic book panel. But I think we just got to figure out what happens to Franklin till then. And I almost want to say, why don't y'all just make Franklin make him an X-Men? Like, you're not going to display him anywhere else. Put him in the X-Men and let him hone his powers and establish the crossover events between X-Men and Fantastic Four consistently instead of putting them at odds with one another. Because I think last time they interacted, Professor X and Magneto pulled up on Reed Richards, and Professor X extracted something out of his brain forcefully on some gangster shit and fractured the relationship again. It was so weird. Because he has to be mutated. Well, here's the thing. The thing that was the natural hedge against Franklin Richards, the reason why Franklin Richards is broken as a character, I'm going to tell you why, is because as a child, he has control of his powers. When he didn't have conscious control of his powers, and they're all tied to different emotions, and that was what made him like a hand grenade, that made sense for him as a character. It made more sense for him. That was the thing that made him weaker because he couldn't control his powers. And giving Franklin control of his powers makes it dumb. Okay, so let's go back. Franklin. Hey, how's it going? Franklin needs to hang out with Damian Wayne. Thanks for tuning in. I think what happens is with Franklin, bro, what they giving him control of his powers, it didn't make any sense because now what can't he do? What can he do? Put him in the X-Men, let him learn how to use his powers and whatnot, and do it like that because he can't put him in the Fantastic Four books. And I'm gonna tell you why Franklin is broken as a character and the depowering him was weird. When Doctor Doom last summer took over the entire Marvel universe, which just started out pretty awesome. Doom had like the world Doom created was dope. I would have lived in the world Doom created, bro. I would have been. You get free education all the way up until your PhD. You get free medical and healthcare. No wars. Everybody gets a basic standard of living and all that stuff. Doom made a really, really awesome world. And the Avengers kept fighting him on it. And the big to-do at the end, where they had to stop Doom and he was going to do something where he's going to hurt the Fantastic Four without killing them and make them feel the pain so they would never run up on him again. And apparently Valeria Richards teleported in and she caught the brunt of all the shrapnel and literally got shredded to pieces, like her arm fell off and her leg fell off. It was really, really graphic to see this happen to a child. And Doom, because Valeria Richards is like, that's his baby. That is Doom's baby. That is his child. As far as Doom is concerned. He made the pact with whoever, I think it was Mephisto or whoever. I don't know who he made the pact with. I think it was he made some pact with some demon to undo all the stuff that he had done, because he, right before he cast that spell that killed Valeria Richards, he cast some kind of spell that made it impossible to go back and prevent, to go back in time and rewrite this moment. He made that moment where Valeria Richards died a cornerstone in time. Here's what the issue with that is. Her brother is the most powerful mutant on the planet. He's the most powerful reality warper on the planet. You're telling me that Franklin Richards watches his little sister get shredded to pieces and doesn't absolutely flip his shit and wreck everything and fix it all? That's been the biggest problem with it. That's how they, and to me, that was the natural off point. Oh, Franklin, y'all pissed Franklin off. His power's about to reemerge and it's about to be curtains for everybody involved. That's what should have happened. And instead, Doom fixed all of it. If you read the old Spectre, Spectre was a G. Spectre was a pulp comic hero, bro. Spectre was, if you did something wrong, Spectre was going to put you in the most fucked up situation you could ever imagine as penance for what you did. That was the old school Spectre. I love the old school Spectre. This new guy where he just is the job guy. Whenever we have a new threat and we just find a way to put Spectre on the sidelines, that sucks. This dude's never changed one diaper. Like there's no in between. Well, and so when you have all powerful reality warpers, and I think that's the problem with reality warpers in comic books. How do you write for a reality warper? You know, the best way I've seen it handled was when they had to deal with Mad Jim Jaspers. I mean, all the stuff that came out with that. That's probably the best way I've seen it. But how do you write ongoing comic books for somebody who can absolutely warp what happened? That was a Superboy Prime problem for a long time, where Superboy Prime, really scale anime, does a really good job with reality warpers. Yeah. The problem with Superboy Prime is they gave him essentially reality warping powers on top of all the other overpowered shit that he could do. And so whenever Superboy doesn't like something, he just punch reality. What sense does that make? And I almost feel like if there was another, like, I almost feel like there should be where every reality warper has a limited amount of scope of what they can actually do. I know that doesn't make sense for a reality warper, but giving them caps on what they're able to do, like I said, the cap with Franklin Richards not being able to fully control his powers, and it makes it dangerous for him. That's why Cyclops is the way he is right now. He doesn't have full control of his powers. He never did, and it kind of defined his character. You could make Franklin Richards the same way and make Cyclops his mentor. You know, and make it so that it shifts from the only time he can manifest his powers is when he's emotionally charged and out of control, to his powers don't work when his emotion, like he has to laser focus in on what he's doing. He has to control his emotions in order to use his powers the way he wants to. That's how you make Franklin Richards interesting again. That's how you make a lot of reality warpers interesting again. The problem is Marvel has too many reality warpers running around. Well, there's Mr. M. Whatever happened to him? Legion, when they feel like Legion should have reality warping powers, boom, he has reality warping powers. Scarlet Witch used to be was altering the laws of probability, and now she's a reality warper on some level. And so at some point, it ends up becoming you got too many people doing the same thing. That's the Marvel, that is the X-Men problem right there, because you have duplications of mutants. Like there's so many Wolverine-like mutants in the Marvel. Nobody has more, I'm gonna be honest with you, nobody has more family members and side characters in their backstory that you do not care about than Wolverine. Nobody. You know, Wolverine had an entire family that he went out and killed one by one. Can anybody tell me their names? And it's not Dakin, you know, not Helverine, not him. There's an entire other family that Wolverine had. And it's not Laura. The entire other family of Wolverine's kids that he went out and killed. And y'all don't even know who they are. You know, it would be great having enemy doesn't care. So reality warp is in this space, and they just keep coming. They had it. Okay, so what was that one? The Marquise of Death, where Marvel really kind of jumped this right. I really think this was a Mark Miller production. It smells like Mark Miller. We had the Marquise of Death, who was like this high level reality warper where he would always come back. No matter what you did to him, he'd always show up like, ha ha, I got you. And the only way he was defeated was by royally pissing off Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom. When Doctor Doom gets on demon time, bro, the whole world is fucked. Like, it's all over for everybody else. I think that they just, for whatever reason, I think they need to put down the reality warping thing, or at least scale it back for most of the characters and have one or two press the button kind of reality warpers. It's kind of like back in the days on the old Transformers cartoon. When you had when shit was too real, that's when Omega Supreme showed up. And then when shit got handled, Omega Supreme went back to whatever Omega Supreme did. And you didn't see him no more. When Omega Supreme turned into Metroplex, turned into Fortress Maximus, turned into Crypticon, turned into Scorponok, and you had huge giant robots as the problem solver, it destroyed the scale of the entire series. We're having one or two dudes like Devastator was another example. When the Decepticons needed an ass whooped, they need an ass whooped. Devastator, go get him. When the Autobots needed somebody's ass kicked, Grimlock, Dinobots, go get them. And then we started making more combiners and more combiners and more combiners. And then you took away the Mystique combiners. Now, I know it was all to sell toys, but it ended up destroying the story too. All right, so that was X-Men. I'll probably have to do a focus video about the Omega level thing just so that I can, because people are mad about me. They're mad at me about this, bro. Like, it was like a 30-second clip. They're mad like that was the totality of everything, not understanding that narratively they've changed the meaning of that multiple times. They've changed it so many times. It's not even funny. And it happens, you know. People will change what was it? When they changed Marvel Girl and they took away her telekinesis and said, well, she's now just a strong telepathic. Well, now she has telekinesis. A short time ago, they gave Professor X telekinetic powers, where he literally mangled a bunch of human beings with his telekinetic abilities. Out of nowhere, apropos of nothing, that's what he did. And then you never really saw it again. Writers and creators change books to fit the stories that they want. And that's fine. That's comic books. But people need to understand that these terms aren't rock solid all the time. The perfect example is the Class 100 hero. Because it used to be, Class 85, Class 75, whatever, that they could lift 75 tons, they could lift 85 tons. Class 100 was you're incalculable. We get Class 100, or you're right at Class 100, you can lift 100 tons. You get above that, it's incalculable. Then people figured out how much 100 tons really was and realized the scale of shit that they were doing on the page of the comic book. The thing would have, like Ben Grimm would have been well above Class 100, just based on some of his basic feats. And so they ended up changing the scale a little bit and just making, 7 levels, and the 7th level is incalculable strength. It changes throughout the years. So I'll do a breakdown of the Omega level thing. Let's talk about that dude from Maine. Let's talk about the dude from Maine. Dude with all the red flags. When I've been saying, hey, this dude smells like a militiaman. I don't know what y'all seeing. Well, he has the right politics. That Graham Plattner dude. He has the right politics. Well, I mean, that's fine and everything. I'm in Nebraska. I know dudes like Graham Plattner, bro. I've met them. Grew up with them, and I went to high school with some of these dudes like that. This dude don't surprise me. The one that has the progressive ideas and the regressive lifestyle, and that's kind of what it was. I didn't know that was a Nazi tattoo. I've lived my entire life with internet access, and I didn't know that was a Nazi tattoo. Let me cover it up now that people have pointed it out. I think Graham Plattner is a social experiment in what happens when people fall in love with the candidate. Because at the end of the day, I know people have issues with, how big how do they put it? The establishment does things, but there's a reason why the establishment does opposition research. And they interviewed the people that did the opposition research on Graham Plattner, and they truly did not give a fuck about all the red flags that they found. They're like, Willie's lived life. Who hasn't had Nazi tattoos and a bunch of allegations about being weird with women and being rough with women, and a whole thread on Reddit where he says a bunch of really homophobic and racist stuff and talks about how he liked to kill people. Who hasn't been a Marine that wanted to go back for another tour and they said, we're good. You don't need to come back. Who hasn't had that? Right? That's how they opposition research. The people that did the opposition research on Graham Plattner did not care. And that's what's dooming Maine right now. Because had they invested that time in it, they could have addressed this shit out front. Yeah, there's several types, right? Yeah, but at some point, so this dude has a pretty credible rape allegation against him, like a pretty credible one, according to the sources. I even did a little bit of checking into the sources. This is a pretty solid one. Talking about that dude in Maine right now. We were talking about Omega level mutants in Marvel Comics, and now we're talking about that guy in Maine. And I don't want his fans jumping in here, but Graham Plattner. Here's the thing. When you're running a candidate whose job it is to be the reformer, I don't think we need to vote for politicians that we would want to marry, or vote for politicians that we would even want to be friends with. There's a pragmatic nature to voting for politics. Specifically, as a black voter, black voters have always been forced to make the pragmatic choice. Again, I've mentioned it on this stream. When Obama ran that first time, it took a long time for a lot of black people to get on board because we did not believe that he had the snowball's chance of hell of winning, just because of how American racism worked. And we were just as shocked as anybody else. But it took a long time for black folks to get on board with Obama. And it didn't have anything to do with him as a candidate. It had to do with, was he the pragmatic choice? I think we vote too aspirationally at times, and we do that. I agree with that. But when you have somebody that has obvious red flags, you can't put him on the ballot because he's a white dude from Maine who has progressive platforms, but we don't know if he actually has progressive politics. And his actions are in opposition to being the progressive that he said he was. You can't do that. Because if we were literally we needed a white dude from Maine, y'all could have put Pennywise on the damn ticket. You could have put Pennywise on the ticket and be like, he just likes kids. They would explain, he just likes kids. That's why he's always surrounded by kids. He just likes kids. What about those kids that disappeared? They ran away. Kids ran away all the time. Yeah. You could have put Pennywise on the ticket. If you wanted a white dude from Michigan, put Pennywise on the ticket then. If we don't really care about what people do, as long as Pennywise does Pennywise run on a progressive platform? Let's rock with him, bro. Put him on the ticket. We'll see what we can vote. We can see what we can get to turn out for him. The kids thing, that'll blow over, man. People don't like kids anyway. And meanwhile, marginalized people, black folks, women, all these, we're screaming, Pennywise eats children, bro, like he eats children. There's verifiable proof and footage of him eating children. Don't believe that, man. You guys are just shills for the Democratic Party. That's kind of how Graham got treated. I posted on Threads, which I know nobody goes to Threads, but I posted anyway. I said, let me get this straight. This dude's a former Merc. He's anti-Zionist. Okay. He's anti-establishment. Former military dude, whatnot. He reads more like a militiaman than progressive movement leader. Y'all don't smell that? Y'all don't smell a militiaman? Like, That's what he read to me from Jump Street. He looks like all of these separatist militia dudes that I have encountered throughout my life. He acts like them. He talks like them. What are we doing here? And nobody wanted to listen about it. Nobody, they just wanted to power through it. And now we're in this position where it's like, okay, is he going to get off the ticket or what are we going to do now? I don't think he's going to make it. The main Democratic people vetted him. They didn't vet him. The people they interviewed, it was another research firm that wasn't really tied to any like establishment thing. They're more of a progressive firm and they wanted to overlook a lot of stuff. The people that should be fired are the ones that did not follow up with another vetting process, because when you listen to this dude talk about Plattner and the vetting process, you're like, oh, they didn't even try. Pennywise eats children. He eats their bodies and souls. I've seen it. He bit that little boy's arm off. He ate that little girl. And I know in the book it looks a little bit different, but even in like when you see Dandello in the Dark Tower, it's kind of intimated that he eats people too. Like he's an emotional vampire, but he will also eat you physically, eat your soul, like eat your body physically. Like he will devour you. And Dandello is of same species as Pennywise. I hope I didn't spoil that for anybody who hasn't read The Dark Tower. But yeah, they eat people. It made it too easy. Okay. He was red flaggy. I agree with you, Maddie. I 100% agree with you. I think that the people that ignore the red flag, and a lot of the people that are still ignoring the red flag are like the progressives are like, Trump is so awful, it doesn't matter. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, you got the grifter, thief, child rapist in office. And so what we're going to do is we're going to run our own rapist. It doesn't make any sense. Like, what do we do? What are you standing on at some point? I don't think politics is inherently a moral game, and I don't think moral choices happen often in politics. But come on, you're telling me that y'all couldn't find another? If it has to be a white dude in Maine, y'all could. If it has to be, I don't believe it has to be, but if it had to be a white dude from Maine with progressive stances, you couldn't find somebody without credible rape allegations and Nazi tattoos. The fetish for dudes in flannel on the left irritates the hell out of me. White dudes in flannels, it pisses me off because we're willing to throw out everything for them. And yeah, they do. The problem is, y'all, and this is something I do need to run down to you. The elusive, I may piss people off, so please bear with me. I'm going to piss a lot of people off with this one. The mythology around the working class white dude and this hope that we're like, all we got to do is just show him that progressive policies will benefit him and he will get on board with those progressive policies benefiting everybody else. And that has never been the case in the history of this country. It's never been the case in the history of this country. That, and I don't want to broad brushstroke it because there are a lot of super dope working class white folks that are really cool and really progressive and everything else. But I'm talking about the mythology of the lapsed Democrat working class white voter who doesn't exist and hasn't existed in 50 some odd years. And they keep chasing for him. They keep chasing and campaigning to get his attention. And they keep saying, our progressive policies are going to help you. They're going to, you just got to make do with the fact that they benefit other people. And for him, that's the red line. Is it going to benefit them? Hell no. Because that screws up his position on the American caste system, the socioeconomic ladder, to be on equal footing with people that he sees as his subordinates. They keep chasing that guy, acting like it wasn't, acting like when they burned down black townships and things like that, that it was just a bunch of rich white guys. And it really wasn't. The lynch mobs were made, like they may have been sparked or even led or insinuated or whatever, pointed in a direction by the rich landholder. But the person that was the one that was driving the boat on the ground in the action was that white worker, the racist white worker. And a lot of it had to do with the fear of competition. But they keep chasing that guy, and they keep trying to find these archetypes to speak to that guy, and then they don't work because that group is gone. Tell you, right? It's a mind trick. It's like Nazi written across the forehead. Well, I do believe that we should all have health care for everybody. I'm gonna vote for him, but he has Nazi written across his forehead. People make mistakes. Know the distance about. Oh, I knew. Yeah, Obama was gonna go the distance. We didn't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. Having the conversation with my mom, she's like, I want to vote for him, but Brian, I don't know. I don't think a black person's ever going to be like she grew up. My mom grew up in segregation. Like she grew up during segregation. And for her, it was mind blowing that this was even an opportunity. And America had beaten that specific subgroup of black people down so much. Even post civil rights, they had beaten them down so much that we never saw ourselves in those positions of leadership. It doesn't have to be a white guy. I agree. But for some people, I'm going to be honest with you, for some people in that left-ish, I don't want to say DSA because it's not necessarily fair to throw them under the bus. I mean, we can in some instances when they show their ass, but for some people, they think the way to reach those lapsed working white class dudes is to put another working class white dude in front of them, even if they aren't necessarily aligned with or don't embody a lot of progressive principles. They just give lip service to it. And they think that they're going to capture that group, and that group will never vote for them again. The white vote hasn't carried a Democrat to the White House in like 60 years. That group is gone. It'll work on the young ones. The rich don't care about race, just stoking the race war. No, they absolutely do. I'm here to tell you that rich dudes do care about race. It's just a factor. Like it's a lot of other things that factor into it. But when we get down to the basic, because anti-blackness isn't like racism isn't just a decision that people make. It's a mental construct they have in their brain and a mental framework they're working off of. So even if this rich dude has a black person, like if a racist rich dude has a black person of equal wealth standing next to them and equal means, equal resources, equal education, they will still see that black person as inferior because that's just how their brain works. So they do care about it on some level, but there are other concerns before they get to that. Not the older ones. I have not seen the chicken farmer guy. Who is that? You can change 20-year-old mind. Yeah, you can. What's up? Why do y'all jump on here with this shit, bro? Like, yes, they do. And it's just like all cells matter, but the ones that are cancerous we need to address. Or, all houses matter, but the ones that are actively on fire we need to address differently than the ones that are not. So anyway, I'm not dealing with anything that looks like a troll. Sorry. So it's time to set up book clubs like they do cults. Reading comprehension have higher levels. Yeah. Farming While Beige. Farming While Beige is an amazing. He's an amazing follow. I've been following him for almost a year. Even when he moved from TikTok to YouTube primarily, he's an amazing, amazing follow. They love profiting off of it. They do care. And again, they like the social hierarchy. They like the caste system. They like things being the way that they are. you know, yeah, it is. To a degree, it is a mental illness because it's not necessarily based in a logical place. Um, and when I'm talking about racism, I'm not talking about just calling, I'm talking about the social construct, the society, like the sociological definition of racism, where it's tied to power and maintaining power, not the rhetorical one where you call me slurs and it's racist and all the other stuff. I'm talking about the power balance, the power dynamic, the sociological one, not the rhetorical definition of racism. And neither one is quite logical to a degree. Because here's the thing: if the concept of racism was logical, then you would think the racism will end at self-preservation, right? Or preservation of your kids or anything along those lines. It does not. For a lot of racists, a lot of the racist policies that they hold on to will come at the expense of their loved ones and the expense of their own pocketbooks and their own health and safety. They will lean into racism. They will say, I don't want those people to have the things I have because I don't want them to have them because they are them. And if they have the things that I have, then where do I begin and where do they end? And they will absolutely remove people's access, but they'll hurt them. They'll cut their nose off to spite their face. I've been talking about it for years. And I said it around last election. There's a segment of the white working class that is perfectly happy to diet, swim in gasoline, and strike a match as long as they think they can reach out and burn a black person. As long as they think they can inflict injury, they are willing to completely sacrifice and hurt themselves for it. That is not logic. I vibe with that. Stop reading before the point was made. Sorry, Joe. I am behind, and so I'm trying to catch up on all the comments. And you guys got to understand with StreamYard, the comments come rapid fire, so I have to catch up on them. So can you give me the point again? I apologize. I didn't mean to do that. Do Black Lives Matter? Well, he's on. He decided he bought his ticket to the void, and that's where he can go sit for a while. This is how we start getting Christianity designed apartheid. Right. I do agree with that. But my argument is true. I don't think so. I think it's hard to read context. It's hard to understand. Like context, we're getting context from snippets of thoughts that you type into the computer. And you're trying to keep up with the stream and flow of conversation. So I get it. Oh, have poor people fight the race war so they don't unite and come get the rich people with pitchforks. I understand that, and I do believe in that, but here's what I'm going to tell you. We have to address the racism that the other poor people have. Again, the overseer class in American chattel slavery, the overseer class was poor white people. People get mad when you say this, but the overseer class, the fugitive slave patrols, a lot of them were poor white people. That was one of the early police forces. The Pinkertons up in New York, I think that was the Pinkerton Agency. Those are the ones that ended up becoming the modern police department. They were working class guys. They were poor. They were adjacent to the poverty. And by promising them a higher social status than those poor people, because they didn't want to be on the same level as those poor people, that's why they're able to brutalize those immigrants and stuff. When New York had those strong lines against, Italians weren't fully white or Irish people weren't fully white. They're able to weaponize the people that they considered white, the ones that they designated white, to go harm those other, what we consider white people now, go harm them so that they could not be considered the same status. And so we have to address the racism of the poor person that is harming another poor person who just happens to be have different melanin content in their skin. And we can't all unite until that gets addressed. It's kind of like the way I phrase it with and then I'm about to wrap this up. It's the way that I phrase it with the Real Rainbow Coalition with Fred Hampton, where he talked to the young patriots and said, We love you guys. We love the action that you guys are involved in. We love the fact you would fight and support us. You guys got to get rid of that Confederate flag because it means something different to my people. And they said, okay. That's how you stay in coalition with people, where we're all equals here. And if one of my peers says that what I'm doing is problematic and checks me, then I need to correct myself. There are people that will not do that, no matter how much money. Like, there's a dude right now living in a trailer park who thinks that he is smarter than Michelle Obama. And I'm not saying trailer park people can't be smart. That's not what I'm saying. There's a guy that never graduated. He never graduated high school, who thinks that he is smarter than Michelle Obama because he's a white dude. I've experienced this I'm an intelligent black person. I don't like beating people over the head with it. I've experienced that with people where literally I've had white dudes who were less intelligent than me threatened by my intelligence and went off on some bizarre tangents and bizarre screeds and rants against me. I had one of the dumbest dudes in my high school sit down and think he's going to talk down to me about something that was specifically in my wheelhouse as a journalism / sociology major. He's going to talk down to me, and he felt like his whiteness enabled him to do that. So we have to address that piece of it, because that's not just some rich person stoking that. That's internalized. Okay, poor racism thrives due to poor education. Underground book club time. I like the idea. I've always wanted to start a book club. I've read a lot of business books. I always wanted to start a business book and marketing book club. Best thing you can do for them is answer them, then block them if it pissed you off. Right. We can try it. You got to tell me how to do it. So many people refuse to answer the question. So just go for the block. So I started out on the engineering scholarship. And I realized that engineering wasn't for me. I had a full ride engineering scholarship. And I realized engineering wasn't for me. I started working in the radio station, and I went into journalism, and I was kind of vibing with journalism. I was considering broadcasting, but then took a sociology class I got fascinated with and decided this is what I wanted to dual major in. And so that's kind of where my expertise was. Started out engineering, journalism with sociology, with the sociology concentration. I think business books to a degree. What happens is people inundate themselves with business books before they actually take real action. And the thing that proves whether a business strategy works for you or not is actually getting real world experience and feedback. They think the business book is going to walk them through from beginning to end, not knowing that oftentimes people who write business books have never run a business themselves. And more times than not, an experienced business person will tell you the best way to learn is to go out and do. And then you come back to the book to reinforce specific things that you need to know. All right. Okay, so how do I do that? Because I'm on StreamYard, so I would probably need to open up Twitch. Open up my Twitch account. Give me a name. And we can do it. I'm opening up my Twitch right now. So if you guys get double audio or whatever, just forgive me. I jumped into a hostile environment of leftists and only got banned once. Sometimes I wonder if people that are leftists are actually leftists, or because somebody put this over earlier today. They said we need to talk about how a lot of leftists are actually libertarians. And that one stuck with me. That was a bar. My business books are trying to make money and never going to give all the tricks. Well, and a lot of times business books deal solely in the realm of theory and not real world application. And so the stuff they give works in theory, but you have to have the knowledge to apply it. Yeah, go ahead and give me a uh somebody you want to raid, and we can do the thing. Like I said, I'm still new to all this. So where do I type it in the comments? Give me a name. Post somebody's name so I could. Oh, in chat. All right, cool. So let's see what happens. Give me, who do you want to raid? Maddie, I'll defer to you because you're the first one to ask about it. A lot of times, I think a lot of times, guys, when we use these labels, I don't find a ton of use in them, but more times than not, the people that are like identified libertarians, a lot of times is I want to do whatever the fuck I want to do, and I don't want to deal with the consequences of it. And it's not a lot of thought about the how and why. Like, why should our taxes go to pay for things? Like, do you like roads? Well, yeah. Okay. Do you like street lights and street signs that tell you when to stop and go? Well, yeah. Okay. That's why our taxes need to go for it. What is the alternative you're proposing if we all just decided not to contribute to society? And that's kind of what it is. I don't think libertarians necessarily know how to live in a society. Like, a lot of libertarians, and so don't take it personally, but a lot of libertarians I've encountered specifically are, they're kind of just rebelling against what their parents did. That's what a lot of leftists do too. They're rebelling against conservative parents and banging on them. But libertarians are like conservatives that smoke weed. I say space laser lady's trying to start a new party. I say let's do a couple more social. If they okay, so if they actually do effectively whitewash everything and launder everything Marjorie Taylor Greene has said and done, um, I am completely done with an entire segment of progressives. Like, no way. We're gonna soft pedal Tucker Carlson and Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then try to sneak Candace Owens in on it. Hell no. But some people are trying to redeem them just because they agree with some things that they say. I can agree with a lot of people, but still not really fuck with them. That's not. I don't have that where I'm in agreement with you on stuff, and because I'm in agreement with you, I have to support your movement and support. No, I'm done over that. I don't do that. They're apocalypters. They love the idea of lawless society and anarchy until the lawless society knocks on their door, says, "What's up? What's good?" They don't understand how that works because a lot of them, and I talked about it last week, a lot of them think that they're alpha males. They think they fall in the category of alpha males and they're tough. And it's like, no, I know alpha males. They will come take your shit. And they don't care how many guns you got in your house. They'll come take your shit. They don't care. They don't care how much training you got and all this other stuff. The real alphas will come and get you. It's just like, as much, what's this, Zuckerberg can do as much jujitsu as he wants to, and his doomsday bunker is not going to mean shit when he actually brings in that armed security guard that's supposed to protect him from everybody else, and the armed security guard sticks a gun in his face and say, all right, I'm in charge now. It's not going to mean anything. His money and status won't mean shit. All right, tell me who to raid. Maddie, I'm giving you the green light. Tell me who needs to get who are going to raid here. Because I got to pop mine open so I can kind of look at my chat. Because I don't know if I could do. I don't know if I can do it um, from my chat on StreamYard. So you got to give it to me. Cool. So I just got to All right, let me find how we do this thing. And so I type raid. Give me the format again so I can do it real quick, and then we'll do it. Okay. I'll copy it and let's do it. And it told me that's an invalid username, bro. What are we doing? Yeah, it told me it's an invalid username. Yeah, I get it. I don't think that I think everybody wants to, and I've said this, I typed it, everybody wants um to burn shit down until shit actually gets burnt down. And then they're not ready for the revolution that they fantasize about. A lot of people really aren't. It'll be the first time they'll get welfare, water rations, and mental health support. Is one. Not even close to social collapse. Got it. All right, let me see what I can do. No spaces. Man, I'm messing stuff up, bro. Now it's all right, so it's not liking that one either. I'm gonna figure this out, y'all. But I do need to go up. I am starving. I've not eaten, so I need to go up and get dinner and stuff rolling. To raid another channel, use the chat command channel. Bet, let's do it. Let's go. Let me turn up the volume here so we can hear. All right. All right, cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up and log off. Yeah. All right. I'm gonna wrap this up. I'll holler at y'all guys. Peace.